integers and the number line. In this lesson, we're going to play around a little bit more with absolute values and comparing integers. So let's take a look at some absolute values first. We want to let's evaluate some absolute values. We want to evaluate the absolute value of -5 plus the absolute value of -3. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, if you remember, the absolute value is simply the distance away from 0, and it's always measured as a positive distance. So when you're dealing with absolute values, picture a number line and picture where these things are on the number line. So -5 would be -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -5 is right there. And I'll write that in that color. -5. It's a little messy, but that's -5. And then -3 would be -1, 2, would be right there. -3. Now, -3, well, how far is that from 0? It's 1, 2, 3 away from 0. So -3, the absolute value of -3 would simply be 3 because it's 3 units away from 0. And then the -5 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units away from 0. So the absolute value of -5 would just be 5. So when we add the absolute value of 5 to the absolute value of 3, we're really adding 5 plus 3, which is going to equal 8. So when you add absolute values like this, you're going to figure out what the absolute values are, get rid of the absolute value signs, and then add the results. So another example of this. The absolute value of 15, plus the absolute value of -15. Okay, what is this going to equal? Well, the absolute value of 15, and I'm not going to draw the number line for this one. The absolute value of 15, well, that's just 15. And then the absolute value of -15, well, that's also 15. So the absolute value of 15 plus the absolute value of -15 would just be 15 plus 15, which is 30. And that would be your answer. Okay, let's see one more of these. Let's say that we have an absolute value of -3 times the absolute value of 2. What's that going to equal? Well, first we want to evaluate the absolute values, and then we'll do the multiplication second. So the absolute value of -3 is just a positive 3. And the absolute value of 2 is just a positive 2. So that becomes 3 times 2, which is 6. And that would be your answer for that one. So the absolute value of -3 times the absolute value of 2 is 6. Okay, now, if we wanted, we're going to shift gears here and we're going to compare some integers. And the way we're going to do this one is we're going to put some integers in order from least to greatest. So let's put these in order. Okay, 13, -2, 5, -12, and 21. And we want to put them in order. So put in order from least to greatest. Okay, well, there's a couple ways we can do that. One way is to draw a number line, and that's the way I think we'll do it first. Eventually, you won't need to use the number line. But for this one, we'll use the number line. And remember, to the right is positive, to the left is negative. So where's 13? Well, I'm not going to draw each little dot, but we'll put 13 over here. Well, let's put it more like here. So there's 13. Now, where would you put -2? Well, -2 would be to the left of the 0. We'll put it somewhere over here, -2. And then we have 5. Well, 5 is in between 0 and 13, so we'll put it about there. And the next one is -12. Well, that's farther to the left than the -2, right? You go -1, -2, -3, -4, and eventually you get to -12 over there somewhere. And then the last one would be 21. Well, if this is 0, and I'm going to make the 0 a different color since it's not actually one of the numbers we're comparing. But there's the 0. To get to 21, well, you start at 0 and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, then you get to 5, you keep going, get to 13, then you keep going and you get to 21. Okay, so if I wanted to put these in order from least to greatest, I would start at the left, which is the -12, and then I would work my way to the right and just list the numbers as I get to them. So -12, then -2, then, well, 0 is not one of the numbers that we're comparing, so I'll skip 0 and then put 5, 13, and 21. And that's how you put the numbers in order from least to greatest when you're comparing these integers. Well, I hope you have a better understanding of integers and the number line and some of the vocabulary words that we use, like opposites, integers, positive integers, negative integers, inequalities with the greater than and less than, and absolute value. And I hope that with some practice, you should have a pretty good understanding of these concepts.